Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. When Roy Osing took Canadian telco TELUS from startup to $1 billion in sales, he understood how critical customer service was. Great customer service isn't just about managing the good times, it's about being able to do the right thing when problems occur. In fact, how you handle a disaster gives people a window into your brand that they wouldn't have had otherwise. It can rocket you to success or become a huge fall from grace. Roy begins by explaining to Chris Ashmore his 3 elements to a great customer service strategy. And the first is core service.
And that's basically what you produce for a customer. And it's generally a product or a service. So it could be an internet service, it could be a television set, anything like that. Think about it, it's called core because without it, you don't have a business. But with it, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful. So core service is kind of like the basic element. The second element is how people feel when they get the core service. And that's called the service experience. So that's the sort of emotional part that goes around the purchase or repair kind of experience that a customer has once they've got what your core service is. By the way, the service experience piece is the source of customer loyalty. I mean, you have to provide your core service 24/7, 365 flawlessly and seamlessly. But if that's all you do, unfortunately, you won't be creating loyal customers. You have to go to the next step through the service experience and you have to dazzle people. You have to blow them away. You have to leave them breathless because when they do, they go, wow, and they will stay with you forever and talk to other people about how wonderful you are. But there is a third one, a third element, and it's called service recovery. It's when you screw them over, what do? And people will say, well, what's that all about? And I say, well, the reality is you're going to make service mistakes. You're going to screw a customer over. You may try not to, good, but you will. It's because organizations are not infallible. Human beings and technology are not infallible. And sooner or later, there's going to be a mistake. And what we do with that mistake is really, really important, which we'll get to in a moment. I created a service strategy, which I'll read to you now, that kind of integrates these components. And this is when I ran the data business. It says, I quote, "We are easy to do business with. We care. We provide and support innovative quality solutions. We make promises and always keep them. If we fall short of our strategy, recovery will be our number one priority." So the elements of that service strategy take into consideration core service and the experience. We use the word promise, not likely. Promise is a human-to-human word. Connection is an organizational word, but a promise and a commitment is an organizational word. So we try and use those kind of human words. And at the end, if we can't deliver that, if we screw up, recovery is going to be our number one priority. That's how much importance we gave that whole concept.
Well, Roy, if we can dig a bit deeper on recovery strategy, what is it exactly?
A recovery strategy answers the question, what do I do when I screw the customer over? Through no fault, wasn't intentional, it happens in the organization. The interesting thing is that recovery, if done well, actually is a very, very significant loyalty builder. If you make a mistake and recover well, you actually blow people away and you enhance your loyalty position versus never having made the mistake at all. There's 2 pieces to recovery, Chris. The first is fix it fast. You've screwed up. You screwed the customer over. You need to fix it fast. And by the way, fast isn't like 2 weeks. Fast is 24 hours or less. There has been studies that have shown that if you can fix a mistake quickly, then you still have a chance to hold the customer. But if you go beyond 24 hours, it's done. You may as well forget it. So fix it fast within 24 hours. But the second piece is where the gold is. And surprise them with what they don't expect.
Do you have a recovery story you can share with us?
Oh, man, do I have a recovery story to share with you? I'll make it really, really quick here, okay? This was really cool how we screwed this guy over. So we had a major hotel in downtown Vancouver. We had a service breakdown that literally put their communications out for about 3 hours, okay? The general manager calls me on the phone personally, as I had a relationship with him. To say he was not happy would be an understatement. He was pissed, man. He was really threatened to sue us for loss of business and to leave us for another telecom supplier, okay? So he definitely got my attention. Here's what I did. First of all, I apologize. So sorry. Didn't mean to do it. Our fault. We'll take care of it. I had a check for $25,000 cut in 25 minutes, despite the lawyers. Yeah, I admitted culpability. So I get $25K. That's it. I didn't know how much it cost him in lost business, and it didn't matter. I needed a symbol. So I got a check for $25,000. And my reasoning was it was probably a heck of a lot more than that. But I'm going to start with it and just see what happens, right? I learned from my sales vice president that this general manager, you'll laugh at this, wanted a candlestick phone. Now, I don't know if you remember these phones. I'm going back a while. This was one of those decorator phones, right? This retro phones that the people would have on their credenzas, like the old Graham Bell phones. And it was colorful and it was cool. It was the coolest thing. Learned that from his executive assistant, that this is what he really wanted. So that was a secret that we discovered. Okay. So I get in the car with my sales VP, my check for $25K, candlestick phone, and we go downtown Vancouver. As we enter the guy's office, and you could just see him. He was ready for me, right? I didn't give him a chance to say anything. I went into him and I said, Mike, I'm so sorry about the technology glitch. We had this that caused the service screwed up. And I handed him a check and I said, and here's $25,000. His response was, that's okay, Roy. These things happen, right? So then I gave him what he coveted. Out comes this phone wrapped in bright paper and he didn't know what it was. So he's pulling out. You should have seen him when he saw, I get goosebumps again, just thinking about this. When he saw this phone, he collapsed literally and went, oh my God, how did you know? I've wanted one of these for years. I've just been too cheap to buy it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The bottom line of this, he forgot about the screw up. Didn't matter to him. He became one of the most raving fans we had in the business community because every time he was asked, and he was on the public circuit, he was a public speaker because this hotel chain was very, very famous. Every time he had a chance to tell a customer service story, guess what story he told? Now, a lot of people say, oh, Roy, do you really want him talking about the service screw up? I said, yes. Of course, because that wasn't the point. And he never spun it in a negative way. He spun it in a way that showed the recovery prowess that we demonstrated and how much we cared for him by going to the trouble of finding out that he wanted and coveted a candlestick phone. He never talked about the $25,000. Didn't matter. I could care less. The guy was giving us several $1 million a year. What do I care? And he never left us.
That was entrepreneur Roy Osing. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Producers are Nick Schildberger, Chris Ashmore, Jeff Waters and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more Be Daily next week. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.